Welcome to episode 24 of the G2 on 5G. It's the latest inside scoop on everything 5G. We cover 6 topics in about 15 minutes, and it's brought to you by More Insights and Strategy. I'm Will Townsend, and joining me again this week is my fellow analyst, Anshel Sag. Let's get started with my first topic. I was briefed on this announcement that actually broke today. Cisco launched a very disruptive edge-enabled architecture with 2 partners. And the initial use case is focused on content delivery networks. And for those of you that don't know what CDNs are, those are the networks that power how we watch Netflix, Disney Plus, and many streaming services. So what's really disruptive about this is that they're bringing edge enablement to improve quality of service and performance over what's currently available today, but they're also introducing a revenue share component so that operators and service providers can actually take advantage and participate in the monetization. What's different today is with services like Akamai, they own a lion's share of the CDN market, and for the most part, they reap all the reward from a revenue perspective. So, CDN is the first application. There are other applications that are planned and other announcements and partnerships that Cisco plans to announce further down the road, later part of this year and into next year. But it gets me thinking, when you marry 5G with edge, it creates a superpower effect. And, obviously 5G delivers extremely low latency for video intensive applications like streaming. But it just kind of gets me thinking, when 5G gets married with this, it could be really disruptive. What are your thoughts?
I think that there's going to be a need for newer, faster, better CDNs because there's going to be more demand for these CDNs to deliver content quickly and on demand in ways that wasn't possible before and wasn't needed, right? I think video is still going to be a very big use case for 5G, especially early on, these next 6 to 12 months. And because of that, I think there's going to be a very big push to get the CDN infrastructure in place to deliver what people are expecting from 5G, which is near instantaneous, content delivery and playback.
Yeah, I mean, it's super frustrating when you get the buffering and that sort of thing. And I try to explain it to my girlfriend when we're watching The Mandalorian. By the way, I'm super excited. I know you are as well. I think it's the 2nd season is going to debut in a few weeks here. But yeah, it's going to provide a better quality of service. And, and service providers are always focused on, delivering great experience, right, to reduce churn. And so I know you cover AR and VR for the company. And you start thinking about, like you mentioned, video is proliferating, streaming is proliferating. We've got, 4K, there'll be 8K, and these networks will need to scale to do that. But then I think the opportunity is like, the mixed reality aspect of it as well, right? We saw 3D, and I think that was sort of a fad. But, I think really AR and VR, especially when you start, integrating that into experiences like, watching concerts and that sort of thing from home, it can be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think if you look at something like AR, VR, the problem with that today is that almost no AR or VR headsets have 5G built in. So most of the headsets are going to be Wi-Fi controlled initially, like the Quest 2 is Wi-Fi. But I think long term, a lot of these headsets are going to start attaching to phones, and that's how they're going to get 5G right off the bat. And then long term, they'll start integrating 5G. But right now, yeah, it's still kind of very much a Wi-Fi world in that space. But I don't think that's for very long. And I think part of it is just they're also waiting for the maturity of the networks and the chipsets to meet, their expectations and their needs. But overall, yeah, I think CDNs are going to have to change if they're going to want to start to deliver volumetric content. I've written about some companies that have some very impressive compression algorithms. But even then, they're still in the hundreds of megabytes in terms of file size. And, that was for a 30-second clip of myself volumetrically captured. Minutes long videos are going to be in the multiple gigabytes, which is something that 4G simply can't deliver.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to kind of keep an eye out on that. So let's move to your first topic this week. And I did catch the announcement from T-Mobile with respect to they claimed a first with 5G carrier aggregation, but you wanted to share some input. I believe that's also associated with LG and Ericsson and MediaTek.
Yeah, so this was a joint announcement. T-Mobile seems to be the one leading a lot of these, new technology announcements. But what they did with 5G was to aggregate two different carriers that are not in the same band, which some people are already able to do. But what they did is they actually took carrier aggregation from two totally separate bands, the 600 megahertz that they have at the bottom end and 2.5 that they have in the mid band, and they're able to aggregate them together using an LG 5G phone. And that 5G phone is running on a MediaTek chipset, which is capable of sub-6 carrier aggregation. It does not do millimeter wave, but it does do sub-6, which is currently the lion's share of what T-Mobile's rolling out right now. Right. And they did it with Ericsson as the infrastructure partner. But the reality is that this doesn't just improve speeds, which is the number one expected improvement, right? Because you're aggregating, let's say, best case scenario 5G at the low band is 200 to 300 megabits, best case scenario. But if you're aggregating that with 2.5 gigahertz, you could be looking at upwards of a gig. And I think that's what they were showing was about a gig per second in aggregate, which 2.5 is capable of doing on its own. So the speed improvement is not really that big of a deal because, low band is kind of, peanuts compared to what mid band can do in terms of bandwidth. The real big deal is actually the fact that aggregating a low band and a mid band together allows you to use the low band as your coverage layer. So you're always connected to 5G. And that way you just add that additional carrier on top. So your overall coverage improves while also having access to much faster bandwidth when it's available. And even if it's not a great signal, you can still get pretty good speeds from it because you still have a solid base layer of coverage, which is, this is a kind of a slow realization of T-Mobile's, layer cake strategy. So, the reality is they want to have 600 megahertz everywhere on everything. And then when possible, 2.5 as, the broad coverage, but maybe not everywhere. And then millimeter wave in little hot spots where it's needed. So this is kind of an evolutionary next step in T-Mobile's spectrum strategy.
Yeah, and I know you've written about carrier aggregation. I have as well. And if our listeners and viewers are interested in learning more about it, you can visit our website, moreinsightstrategy.com. And we're posting all of our Forbes contributions out there. So you'll be able to search by that and look it up. So, well, let's move to my second topic this week. And I kind of got a chuckle. The United States Postal Service wants to jump into the fray and help deliver national 5G. And so my first question was, hey, I hope they don't use their mail sorting equipment to do that, because I've actually lost, things in the past. And, I'm thinking, what they're referring to is, they've got, a footprint, right, with all of the post offices around the country. And so could those be used to stand up small cells? And, certainly you wouldn't deploy a full base station on top of a post office. But I thought it was kind of interesting. I tweeted something out earlier this week, sort of tongue in cheek. I mean, have you followed that? Do you have any thoughts there?
I actually was not aware of it until I saw it in your topics.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's interesting because it's a piece of land that the government already owns.
Yeah.
And they can pretty much, for the most part, build whatever they want on it. I think what would be interesting is to use it as a potential, hotspot to be able to download content, basically like kind of what libraries have been for people accessing the internet, right? Because libraries were originally for books, and now libraries are for internet
Yeah.
access. But what if post offices were a way that if you're in a rural area, you just walk or drive to the post office, and that's where they have really fast 5G connectivity, and you can download your Netflix, you can download your whatever, and quickly get that content and then go. So it's like a physical place you go to access digital content, but do it very quickly. And if you get people on and off quickly, then you won't have people crowding too much.
Yeah.
And people are
No,
going there anyways for regular business.
oh, sure. And it's interesting. I didn't think about that, but the rural, sort of angle might be interesting, right? If
Because you have post
if,
offices everywhere, right? And
yeah,
most people, they're going to go to the post office anyways to pick up packages and stuff like that, as a natural course of business. Obviously it's not about the mail carriers, but I just think that there is some thought there where maybe you just use those as the, originating
hubs.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could use you could use fixed wireless access. So yeah, it'd be interesting. So maybe I shouldn't have been so snarky in my tweet there, but let's move to your next topic this week. And you want to talk about Google Pixel.
Yeah, so this was something that happened a little bit last week, but it's still kind of a slow rolling thing because the devices are slowly becoming made available. They'll be available, this month. So it makes sense to talk about it. The launch happened last week, but basically, Google has two new Pixel phones, the Pixel 4a 5G and the Pixel 5. And, the 4a 5G actually, gives access to, multi-camera array, 5G connectivity, pretty high-end Qualcomm Snapdragon 765 processor, which is a very top-of-the-line mid-tier chip, almost a flagship chip. And the interesting part is it's $499 for a 5G phone in the U.S.
Wow.
From a arguably tier one brand. So it brings accessibility of 5G to a very good point. The one thing that's worth noting is the Verizon version with millimeter wave is an extra $100. So that version is actually $599 instead of being $499. And the Pixel 5 is going to ship for, I believe, $699. So it's still a top tier phone. It's got a metal case, wireless charging, 5G connectivity, all the cool camera stuff, OLED display, 90 hertz refresh rate, but it's not running a Snapdragon 865 and all these other things, but it does have millimeter wave. And that's because the operators in the US are all planning to roll it out eventually, and they want the Google Pixel to have it. So Google built it in. And as a result, it's a $699 flagship phone, which is a lot cheaper than what other people are offering right now as flagship devices. And the Pixel camera is great. One really interesting thing is they're actually leveraging 5G software in these phones, so that when you're in a very high speed 5G area with millimeter wave or some enough bandwidth, they'll actually pre-cache content that you might have otherwise had to wait on Wi-Fi for, as long as you have the right data plan for it. So they're actually integrating 5G into the software, not just saying it's got 5G, enjoy. They're actually being able to deliver HD quality duo videos, and they're just up leveling the experience in a way that makes 5G more meaningful to the consumer.
Yeah, and this, we've spoken about this before, Qualcomm supporting a continuum, right, of devices at a continuum of price points. So,
Exactly.
and this is evidence of that. Sounds like a great value. I wish I was an Android guy. I'm an iPhone guy. I know your third topic, you're going to talk about, what's expected, with the big Apple announcement next week. But let me jump to my third topic this week before we get into that. Mavenir announced this week that they're seeking to raise $100 million in an IPO. And I felt the timing was probably perfect given the momentum that's behind Open RAN, right? So you've got the telecom infra project that's been doing a lot of work to harmonize sort of this whole notion of open radio access network. And Mavenir has clearly been a participant in that space. They're a very software defined solution provider. They provide private networking solutions, but they're definitely participating in this Open RAN initiative. And we've spoken about this on prior podcasts as well. The advantage there is that it's allowing the U.S. to bring some new entrants into the ecosystem that are North America, sourced. So we've worked, and seen the likes of Ericsson and Samsung and Nokia. They are not U.S. companies, although they are very friendly to the U.S. So I just felt like, hey, they couldn't have picked a better time to launch their IPO. I don't know if you follow Mavenir, that frequently, but I spent time with them. I've been at a few of their analyst conferences. They are definitely very aggressive. They're very confident in their technology, and and from my perspective, I think this IPO should go well for them.
I'm not that familiar with Mavenir. I know who they are, I know what they do. I understand what their business is, but I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near as close as you are to them in terms of understanding. But that said, like it's interesting because Open RAN is starting to become more of a reality, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize the value of it, especially within the U.S. But I think if the U.S. really does start to adopt it, that we'll very likely see a pretty big momentum shift towards that globally, not just in the U.S.
Right. Yeah. And 5G deployments are already in play, right? So, and I've written a Forbes article on Open RAN, and I sort of looked at both sides of the coin. Yes, it can be very CapEx disruptive, but it introduces complexity and software integration in a new set of ecosystem partners that could put pressure on OpEx. And so, I think the jury, from my perspective, is still out. I think it is very promising. It allows U.S. companies to lean into software development expertise, which has been a hallmark of a technology industry base in the U.S. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But from my perspective, I'm a little bit closer to them. I think the timing's great for them. It'll be interesting to see, once things, get rolling, how well they do with that. So, but let's move to your third and final topic this week, and the much and highly anticipated iPhone 12.
Yeah, so we've got an official date, which I believe is the 13th. Apple has teased their iPhone event will be. That is a few weeks after the originally expected September date. Mm-hmm. Apple traditionally launches their iPhones in September, and they become available at the end of the month or early October. This year was a little weird. There were some delays that caused them to push back the iPhone event. They never really explained what those causes were, but it was very likely COVID. But the reality is that a few weeks doesn't really make much of a difference to most people. It may impact their sales numbers a little bit, but it's they usually sell out for the remainder of the year once they launch their phone. And the iPhone 12 is going to be their first 5G phone. And I've actually talked to CNN and kind of gave them my perspective on what I expected the iPhone 12 to have. So the reality is I think all iPhones are going to be 5G. I don't think they're going to ship a version of the iPhone that isn't 5G. Mm-hmm. And it'll very likely ship with the latest discrete modem from Qualcomm, which may actually be the X60. Mm-hmm. It's kind of up in the air. It's not 100%. But it's either going to be an X55 or an X60 modem. And it's going to have all the bells and whistles that a 5G modem should have. And the iPhone 12, I believe, will have both millimeter wave and non-millimeter wave models. I think you're going to see millimeter wave very much in the US. And it will most likely be in the larger variants. So whatever the iPhone 12 Plus will be, or Max, sorry, the iPhone 12 Max will probably get it. It'll probably also be maybe in the Pro model. That's just a little bit, the modules on 5G have gotten smaller, so it's doable. But I think you're going to see it definitely in the Pro Max, maybe in the Pro, probably not in the base model iPhone 12, but it will do sub 6. And I think that's going to be, that kind of tiering is kind of what you're seeing from a lot of companies. I think it'll be very similar to what Samsung did with the S20, where the base S20 doesn't have it, the Plus does, and then the Ultra did. So I think it's that's going to be the spread. I also think they're going to, integrate the LiDAR capabilities that are in the iPad and make it more AR friendly. So you can scan things into your environment, but also have better low light focus capabilities and better environment mapping for AR. So I think they're going to, lean a little bit more hard into AR and 5G. I also think the A14s are going to be a very fast chip, as always. I believe it's going to be the first 5-nanometer chip out there in terms of smartphones. So it's going to be very fast. It's going to be very low power, and it's going to be their first 5G phone. And I think it's going to really, kick the 5G market into the next gear of momentum. Because I think, I would say we were in first gear this year. I feel like we're about to shift in the second gear, and iPhone is kind of the initial kick in the second gear. So I think we're going to really see a 5G market really kick in the second gear very quickly, immediately after the iPhone event, as people start to buy iPhones and, the demand for 5G networks starts to grow, and operators, really start accelerating their deployments of their 5G networks overall. Because, some of them are still a little bit spotty, like Verizon. But I think it's going to be something that really kicks things into the next gear.
I'd agree. It's Apple, right? And sort of in hindsight, they're about a year late to the party relative to Samsung and Huawei and other Android platforms. But
they kind of have a history of doing it too.
They do, yeah.
They were kind of a year late with 4G as well, and that was actually what I think kicked Samsung off into what where they are today.
Right, yeah. So it's interesting. So I don't think they're going to lose any momentum, and I totally agree with you. I think people, I have people ask me all the time. It's like, when am I going to see an iPhone with 5G? And so I think there's some pent up demand. I think people have been waiting. Maybe they skipped a generation on the upgrade to wait to get kind of the full tilt. And based on what you're describing, it sounds very, very compelling with all the different features. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we learn next week. So hey, buddy, another great podcast. Why don't you take us home?
Sure. We hope that our viewers and listeners found this week's topics interesting. If anyone out there would like to reach out to us on a potential specific topic around 5G for a future podcast, please reach out to us on social media. Will is at Willtown Tech, and I'm at Anshel. We hope you have a great weekend, and please tune in again next time.